Lee Nolden is a famed guide on Lake Winnipeg. He does a great job. He's on my program this afternoon on KFGO 2 to 5, by the way. Lee's been up at Lake Winnipeg guiding for 35 years or more.
Yeah,
more than that? Okay.
all over.
More than that. He said the biggest walleye he's caught was 15.5 pounds out of Lake Winnipeg. He had one afternoon, he told me today, and he's a fisherman, so take it for what it's worth. One afternoon, he told me, he caught 10 walleyes over 10 pounds from Lake Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Is that right, Lee?
That was one time only.
One time, but you caught 10 walleyes over 10 pounds.
Over 30 inches.
All right. Wow, unbelievable. Folks, Lee Nolan from Lake Winnipeg, Winnipeg, Manitoba. Give him a hand. Welcome him here.
I can't believe how many people showed up tonight. I'm really impressed. Hope I do a good job for you. I'm going to go through a few things. At the end, feel free to ask any question you want, except for GPS spots. But everybody wants to know, what's the big secret to fishing on Lake Winnipeg? What's the main key? The main key is there are no secrets. It's a very, very easy lake to fish. Not a lot of structure. We were talking earlier with some of the guys, the big adventure about fishing on Lake Winnipeg is just to get out to where the fish are. That's the big adventure. Actually, the fishing part's very easy, not a big deal. Everybody wants to come up and catch a fish like that one. That young guy is from Pembina, I think, North Dakota. That young guy caught, that fish is, I think, 34 inches long, 33, 34, 15 pounds. That was his third fish over 10 pounds that morning. He's still up on the lake, his dad wouldn't take him home. But does that happen to everybody every day? No, of course not. But the reason people come up to Lake Winnipeg is to have a chance at a fish that's over 10 pounds through the ice. There's only 3 places in the world you can do that. Lake Winnipeg, Lake Erie if they have ice, if you like floating around out in the lake on an iceberg when it breaks off, or the Bay of Quinte, which is actually quite far from here. So within 4 to 5 hours from Fargo, you've got a legit chance at catching a 10-pound fish. If you've got 3, 4 guys, 5 guys that go up for 2 or 3 days, you can almost be guaranteed that somebody's going to get one. And most of the time, everybody's going to hook one, but they don't always make it on top of the ice. You know, when you set the hook and all you hear is drag go, oh, that's the fish that you're looking for. But the big thing on Lake Winnipeg, like we were talking about earlier, is safety. It's not like Lake of the Woods where you've got resorts all over, where you've got ice roads, shack rentals. There's nothing out there. There's very few lights even for houses and cottages. So one of the things that you really have to worry about is equipment. Like I'd never recommend like 2 guys for a first trip. Just 2 people on one sled, head out, go fishing. That's a big no-no. The wind comes up like it does here in North Dakota. You get whiteout conditions. GPSs don't work all the time. So it's a really good proving ground for equipment. I know we talked to the Eskimo guys, the Lowrance people, all the different company guys, and I go, just send me your stuff for a couple weeks. If it holds up, it's good. If I can't wreck it, you got a winner. So, but it's really important to have a well thought out plan when you're planning your trips. Little things like if a guy's got a new sled now, you got a 4-stroke sled, they don't always start when it's 30, 40 below. It causes big issues. If you're out on the lake and you see it when you kind of start to leave, or if you can't see very far, get the heck off the lake. So respect the water. Right now we're starting to drive up there. When this truck went through, we had been driving for 2 weeks already on the water. And that guy was, actually we get big ice ridges, like you would probably on Devils and some of the lakes. He was driving along the edge of an ice ridge and there was a couple of cracks that came into it. So what happened is actually like a loose piece of ice just sitting there floating. He drove onto it slow and it just sunk. he had to go back in to get he had his daughter with him. He had to go back in the water to get her out of the truck. So nobody was hurt. But every year we have a few things that come up like that. And that's the big key is to respect the lake and watch for frostbite. Make sure your equipment's in good order. And you want to bring extra stuff. Lots of groups, you know, on a 3-day trip, they've got 4 sleds. By the last day, they got 1 sled. Everybody's on the back, hanging on for dear life. Between them, they hacked together 1 flasher that's still working. And they got kind of an Eskimo Jiffy combo going for an ice auger, you know. So the planning is really important, and bring extra gear when you come up. But Lake Winnipeg is eminently fishable without a guide or anything, and we're going to go through some areas and how to even get on the lake, and we'll go from there. This is actually the south basin of Lake Winnipeg, a portion of it. I'm just going to point out, if some of you guys are on Facebook or on some of the Manitoba Angler website or different websites where they talk about where they're fishing and you got no clue where the heck that is, I'm just going to point out a few things for you. The mouth of the Red River is right up in here. So when people talk about making it to the mouth to go fishing or somebody caught one by the mouth. Now it's actually kind of a big area. When people talk about the mouth, it's actually most of this area out here. Right up in here is a very shallow delta, and really not fishable. It's just a few feet deep. So when people are talking about fishing the mouth, they're talking about fishing over here. When people talk about fishing the Eagle's Nest area or the West Nest or any of those areas, that's right up in this area, right up in here. Chalet Beach, you may have heard of. That's a popular spot to launch snowmobiles or to drive on. That's right up in here. I've got another map that'll show actually how to get on there. The town of Winnipeg Beach is up the coast a little bit. And when I get into motels and stuff, that's a good area to stay. Stony Point is over here. Baconia, Road 100 comes right out here. So this is Balsam Bay. If you hear about Balsam Bay, that's this area right in here. Road 103 sometimes, that was one of my little hot spots for a few years and kind of got out. That's right up in here. It's another good place where you can go right onto the lake with the snow machine and you can fish right out there. So the areas that we typically fish are from here all the way around and right up into here. It's probably where 99% of the fishing is done. And Lake Winnipeg is not a very deep lake. If we're fishing out here, you might hit 16, 17 feet from the top of the ice. A lot of the fish we catch, I've caught them there's actually only 1.5 feet of water underneath our ice that's 4 or 5 feet thick. But 6, 7 feet down through here, Pruden Bay, people have heard of. This is the creek that a lot of people access the lake through right now. Pruden Bay, this is a real popular area now. You go 6, 7 years ago, there was nobody out here. It'd be like Stewie Mackay and myself hanging out. Pruden Bay, when people talk about fishing Pruden Bay, that's this area here. Now in the wintertime, it looks a lot different. It looks almost like all lakes, just all white. This is all bulrushes and slough in here. If you like to duck hunt or goose hunt, this is a really good area when the birds are in. It's all public land too. As I mentioned, the mouth. This area, if you hear about the Eagle's Nest, is right in here. The Salamonia Channel, the guys have been doing really good fishing out there lately. That's right up in here. Very close. And some of the reasons that make these areas good, when the red comes in, you go up and it hits the lake, and you get back eddies that come out like this and swirl around. These areas have clean water usually and hold lots of bait. Same with this and up in here. This tends to be a little bit deeper water, but as the fish come from north, if any of you guys have heard about fishing Pine Falls, which is on the Winnipeg River, which is probably 30 miles north of Grand Marais, but that's where those fish are coming from. They're coming down the lake into this area. The reason we think they're coming down here is to spawn. This is all sand and gravel beds here. Certainly some of the fish spawn in creeks and rivers, but you couldn't jam them all in there. There's too many fish. So most of those fish are lake spawners that are spawning down in this area, and that's why they're coming down. And then these sloughs, these are all 4 to 6 feet. They're full of shiner minnows. And in the wintertime, these will come out here, and so it's just like a food factory for it. Lake Winnipeg is the most fertile lake in North America. That's not always a good thing, but the fish grow very, very fast. If you look at pictures of the fish, you can tell they've got like a little head and a great big body. They're kind of like me. They're like a leaf fish. Except they aren't as old. But they grow, you know, a 70-pound fish might only be 5 to 8 years old in our lake. They've done some studies with them. Lake Winnipeg is commercially fished. Not everybody knows that. But if you eat walleye in a restaurant, it probably came from Lake Winnipeg. The legal quota is 9 million pounds. 9 million pounds. And that's the legal quota. What they're thinking with bycatch and stuff that gets spoiled or wasted or people selling on the side, the actual amount of fish coming out of here is about 15 million pounds of walleye per year. And they've been doing that for, well, they've been commercial fishing for well over 100 years, 120 years. And those quotas have been like that for 30 or 40. So it truly produces a lot of fish. One thing that they just found last fall was zebra mussels. They actually found them up in Winnipeg Beach in Gimli, which is further north in one of the harbors. So they tried some eradication. I think they put phosphate, they put a chemical, they kind of, in some of the harbors, they blocked them off and killed them in there, but they're in the lake. So I don't know what's gonna happen to the fishery there. Long term, you know, it's gonna be like Lake Erie. I think it's gonna, my personal opinion, it's gonna make it better for a while and then go down the crapper. That's hard to say. The reason our fish get so big is because of rainbow smelt. It's a primary food source. I remember when they came in the lake 20-some years ago, the first time somebody caught them, the commercial fishermen thought it was going to kill the lake, they were done. And that's actually what's made so many fish and makes them grow so quick. And they've had very good spawn years with the floods that we've had. You guys are well familiar with that down here. So the floods that we had in '97 and the subsequent floods, they've had really good spawns. So that's what keeps our fishery going. You can tell different years too when you're fishing up there. Some years you can't catch a fish under 22 inches to keep. They're all big. And then some years, most of them are 16, 18 inches and you get the odd big one. So you can tell different year classes by what's going on. So, probably the question I'm asked most frequently is not where they're biting or a GPS spot, but where the heck do I stay when I get up there? Because I can't find any motels, I can't find anything. I'll keep this on after if anybody wants to copy it down or need some more info on it. But that's the website. So that's pretty much what's up in our area. We've got a brand new hotel that's going up in Selkirk right now called Can Alta Inn. It's an 85-room hotel. It looks to me like a decent Super 8 kind of thing. But it's right, if you know Selkirk at all, the town of Selkirk, it's by the Canadian Tire and the Walmart out in that area. So it's very convenient whether you're fishing the east side or the west side. And that'll be coming online, I think mid-January, the last I talked to them. I don't think they're taking reservations yet though. So that'll be a good one. You can come back, I'll leave that back up if anybody needs information on it. I'll maybe just talk briefly about some of them. The Hamilton House is actually in the town of Winnipeg Beach. If you remember the last slide, on the west side of the lake. The nice thing about that place, it's very small, very cheap. He's got kitchenettes, and you can leave right from the hotel on a sled that's only 100 yards off the lake. So sled, quad, track truck, whatever you got, you don't have to load up and move anywhere. So that's the advantage there. It's a very small place. I think it's only got 8 rooms though. Petersfield Hotel is kind of on south end of the lake on the west side. Again, very small place, 6-8 rooms, cheap. I mean, if you just need a place to come, grab some grub and go to bed, good choices for you. Bridgeview Bed and Breakfast for people that are into that kind of experience. She does a very good job there. The Selkirk and Conference Center, that's where the FM Club for a few years had their outing up in Winnipeg. Nice hotel, no pool or anything. The only thing I don't like about that is it's kind of in the town of Selkirk and you can't have stuff like in the back of your truck. You know, it's got to be locked up. So that's a downfall there. Otherwise, it's reasonable. I think it's about $89 a night for the room. Hamilton House, I think they're running $60, $70 for the room. Bed and breakfast, $30, $40, $80, $90. South Beach Casino, a lot of you guys stay there. That's where the FM Walleye Club currently has their outing in March. Rooms there, I think during the week are about $69. Weekends, I think they go up to $89, $90, $95, something like that. It's a real nice place if you like to do some entertainment after you get done fishing. If you're bringing wife, kids, they've got the nice pool, they got the casino. So you've got different choices here. And that's also, you can leave, at certain times of the year, you can drive right down the river out to the lake from the casino. Not a lot of guys do that, but you can. Lakeview Hotels, that's up in Gimli. So that's a bit of a drive. You can leave from there, right from the lake. So some of the snow bear guys stay up there. If they get a bunch of snow bears, they'll just jump on the lake and drive right from there. Netley Creek Getaway is a good one for you guys. It's just a cabin, kind of right on Netley Creek. So you can go right from there. You can sled right to the lake or right down to the river. And that's like typical, like a northern Minnesota cabin. And it's $120, $140 a night. So if you're looking for that type of an experience, that's a good place to check out. But as you can see, we don't have like tons of places. There are no big lodges, any of that kind of stuff. There's really nothing right on the lake to stay that caters to the fishermen. Okay, let's get into some of the equipment that we like to use. A flasher. Most of you guys use flashers down here, I'm guessing. Almost everybody, right? Yeah. Don't come if you don't have a flasher. If you don't have one lined up when you get there, if you can't big bar or steal one, don't come. Half the fun of fishing up where we are, and most of the lakes, is to watch your flasher. And Lake Winnipeg really is the epitome of watching your flasher, working a lure, and working a fish. So what I'd like when you come up to with a flasher, have a basic understanding of how it works, besides just turning it on. Okay, know what the bottom looks like. When you jiggle your lure, you should see the lure jiggle. And when you see a mark in the middle, that's not interference, don't hit the unit. That's a fish. If you see a bunch of squiggly stuff up high, that's probably minnows. But the guys are going, man, this thing doesn't work, it's lines all over. I said, that's fish, buddy. Why don't we catch one? Reel it up. Try something new for a change. So a flasher is key, and but most of the guys here are going to use them, but it makes the day go so much quicker, and it's so much fun because you're going to mark a lot of fish that you don't necessarily catch. Or you're going to mark fish, and you're going to work that little sucker for 10 or 15 minutes, and that one doesn't work, you're going to throw back something else and try to get him, and he won't bite that, and darn it, I'm going to get you, and then finally the third one he goes. Okay, so it really enhances the experience when you're out fishing. Rods, we tend to use some specialized equipment out there. Not so much anymore, but back 6, 8, 10 years ago, Roger Stearns, probably, some of you guys have heard of him, good buddy of mine, but we were looking for rods that were a little stiffer for the bigger fish, and some of the baits that we fish up there, you can't use a real wimpy rod. So he was custom making 38, 40-inch medium heavy rods like you would call for a lake trout rod, which is But nowadays they've got lots of different options for you. Jason Mitchell makes a nice set of rods for 35, 40 bucks. You go to Shields, they'll have racks of them for 20, 30 bucks. But one thing I would not recommend is come up with the Walmart 1995 kind of a combo that isn't worth the shoot for crappies or sunfish or what. I don't know what the heck they make those for, but it's not worth the shoot for nothing. So again, maybe if you have to borrow something from a neighbor or whatever, but you don't have to spend, my point is you don't have to spend 100 bucks on a rod to come up and enjoy your time, but get something decent for 20, 30, 40 bucks. Reels, we just use our summer reels. One tip there would be, if you get time, if it's going to be cold, take them apart, degrease them, use a silicone or something, otherwise it's like, it's stuck, it's jammed up. No, it's just froze, the grease froze up. It's got moisture in there. Line, any of the new super lines we tend to use now, I'll use, I like Power Pro, but there's lots of different choices out there. I'm not fussy with what guys do. One thing that I like to do is, I'm using, with the Power Pro, I'll tie a small swivel, and then I'll use fluorocarbon leader. One tip, this is one of the better things you'll probably get out of this whole deal, is the swivel, you want your leader at least the length of the thickness of the ice. And the reason for that is not because the fish can see it or anything, but, excuse me, as the swivel comes up, as you can see that swivel in the hole, when you got a big fish, you know that fish is getting close to the underside of the ice. You go, oh, I gotta be careful. So when as he's thumping, you'll know on a big fish, I call them thumpers, where your rod's going like this, the drag's going. So when you get that fish up, there's a swivel. You want to lift him up on an up thump. So when he's going like this, as he comes up, you try to lift. And he may hit the ice, he may not be there. And that's when you lose all your fish, is right when they get caught on the ice or the lure catches the ice. So that swivel is a really good tip to know when you're getting close to the ice. I use a snap on my lures. I seldom change the lure. I keep 3-4 rods rigged all the time. But just it makes the lure have a little bit better motion to it. Really, there's only about 4 or 5 different types of lures that we use. The one up on the upper left is a lipless crankbait. That's a live target. That's my personal favorite, but they've got, Rapala makes them, everybody makes one now. So they got lots of different styles of those. And we kind of started that's another Roger deal up on Lake Winnipeg. First time I used one of those, I was with the Snow Bear guys. Used to be a Fargo company here. So I'm out fishing with them, so Roger was out, we're talking on the phone, I come over to see Roger. He's farting around fishing. I said, Roger, go for a ride in the Snow Bear. We'd never seen one before. He goes, okay, he goes, here, I'm fishing this new lure. He said, I'm just trying this out. He said, just rip it to see what happens. He goes for about a 20-minute tour on the Snow Bear, 8-9 fish on the ice. It's like some kind of drug, it's like, I need that lure. So I get a couple of those off him. He gives me one. You know, the next one's 12 bucks. It's like a drug dealer, right? They hook you on the free one, and after that, they're $12.50 on the ice. If they're biting good that day, it's 20 bucks. And I only got 3 left. Oh. So, what I'd recommend for a tackle box, you don't need, I know some of the guys have got hundreds and hundreds of lures. You know, if you've got 1.5 of those per person, you know, if you got a group of guys, everybody's got one and throw a couple spares in. And now I see that, like the guy that custom paints them, really good.
That's crack cocaine.
Yeah, that is. But you can with the custom colors, like I like a white one, a glow white, with we call it Wonderbird, but it's got like little dots on it. Okay, so that's a killer lure for that. The clown pattern, like Rapala has, you paint one like a clown, really good baits. So I highly recommend doing that. The jigging rats, typically I'll digress a bit. Typically what I would do with that live target is that's how I find fish. Okay, I'm in the new area. And because we're not fishing a lot of structure, we're not fishing rock piles, drop-offs, tips of islands, or whatever, it's just open space. I want to call those fish to me. We call it hog calling. That's a really noisy bait. When you drop it down and rip it, it'll get fish into you. A lot of times they'll hit that bait. You may have it underneath and try to jiggle it up and they'll come up and hit it. Sometimes they won't. What we always do is I'll have a throwback rod, like if he won't bite that one, I'll reel it up quick. I'll go to that jig and wrap. That style of bait. If he doesn't hit that one, I'll go to one of the spoons. I've got the spoons, I kind of divide them up into two areas. This extreme tackle one here, this was really a good bait last year. But that's like a thumper jig, for pounding the bottom. It's a heavier inline jig, it's got a rattle in it, but I use it to stir up the bottom and get fish to come in. The other type of spoon we use is a willow leaf spoon. That's another Roger deal. But those are flutter type spoons, very lightweight. And as you jerk them, they come down like this. Some days they're very, very effective. The blade baits can be very effective too. All these baits you can fish naked. I don't want nobody have a nightmare now when you think about it. What I mean by that is you can hook a minnow on it. Okay? And one of the tricks that we do is, I know down here they talk about using a minnow head or whatever. What we'll do is we use salted minnows up on Lake Winnipeg, salted shiners. We'll wrap that minnow around one of the hooks, one of the treble hooks. So, we'll wrap it all the way around, gives it a nice bite. That's another good tip, always do that. In Manitoba too, we're barbless. So what that means for you guys is not your whole tackle box, but any lure that's on a rod has to have the barbs pinched down. Very important, they'll write your ticket for that. And really, I haven't found that you're going to lose any fish if you keep steady tension. It's normally not an issue. Another little tip I'll give you on the live targets that not a lot of guys do is if they're kind of fidgety and not doing much, instead of wrapping that minnow all the way around the front treble, I'll suspend it below the lure. So you got like two. And you can use it almost like a dead stick then. And I know guys that'll use that. In Manitoba, we're allowed to use two rods and reel. So typically you'd have one to call them in. You'd have something else set up that's a little more finessing. So on the dead stick, the standard bait that any Manitoban would use would be a jig and a minnow. Just set it on the pail. When the rod goes like this, you got a fish, you reel them in. And up until a few years ago, that's all 90% of them fished. But dead sticks nowadays, you can do different things. We are allowed live bait in Manitoba. Not many guys use it. I seldom do. But there are particular times when the live bait will outfish the other guys. And anybody that fishes Mille Lacs or around here, you guys would be really good with that. Using a slip bobber, maybe just a small hook, small split shot. Keep it lively. So you call him in with that one, he won't go. Oh, look, he's got a live one a foot away, 2 feet away. So that can work, and some days that really produces for you. One thing too that's kind of a different trend that not many guys are doing, and something for you guys to think about, is on your dead stick. I know perch are a big deal here in panfish. You've got your little tungsten 3, 4, 5 millimeter jigs with waxies or Euros. Throw one of those rods and a few of those jigs in your tackle when you come up north. Because we've got different species of fish now. We've got, there are times when you're marking fish and they follow you up and down and it's like, what the heck's going on? It could be perch. The other thing it can be is white bass. We've got tons of those. The biomass is just incredible in Lake Winnipeg. And whitefish. So you can get into a different type of bite, and then by doing that, also you're giving a different presentation I can guarantee those fish haven't seen before. So if they're feeding on some little bug that's in the mud, like we'll pull fish up sometimes and they have mud in their tummies or on their sides, like they've been rooting in the mud, digging out some bug. So that may be something that works for you. So if you're up there and you've got a spare hole and it's getting a little slack in the shack, just try some of those things. Don't be afraid to experiment. But I think that's going to be one of the next big things on Lake Winnipeg is fishing for the whitefish and going very small. Now, having said that, last year we were, I don't have to tell anybody here that it was colder than heck, so we had severe cold front conditions. Couldn't get fish to bite, they're going up and down. So what some of us were doing is we were using almost like a salmon spoon, 5 to 6 inch long spoon, very lightweight. So where everybody else was going smaller because you got to be finessed, the cold front and all this stuff, screw that. 6 inch spoon, start ripping it. And we caught fish doing that. So you're getting a reaction bite that way. You're just making them mad when they got to bite it. So don't be afraid to try different things. It's a really good area for that. If you've got something that works down here, try it up there. Or if you got an idea in your head for a lure, make it up and try it up there. It's going to work good for you. But that's really you don't need, if you got a few of each of that style of lure, if you want to use a buckshot rather than that one, or a different blade, or skip the blade, but you don't need $2,000 worth of tackle. I sound like your wives now, I know, but it's pretty much true. The older I get, the less stuff I need to go out and buy. Okay, this is actually the whole south end of Lake Winnipeg. So the area that I showed you first was just this little bit down here. Guys that fish Pine Falls, this is the Winnipeg River, this is Travis Bay. This is Elk Island, Devil's Island would be out here somewhere. Okay, if you're going to come up and you want to try, I think that's one of the things that some of the guys have been fishing up here for 6, 8, 10 years. Guys that are really good, guys like Kula, Jay Kula, or Bill Cornett, or some of those guys, friends of mine, that are really, really good fishermen. And probably, by the way, they're probably the 2 best fishermen on Lake Winnipeg right now. 2 guys from North Dakota. Very knowledgeable guys. But what those guys are doing, what I'm doing, and a few of the other guys, we're expanding out of the South Basin. Right? Not every fish is down here. So we're fishing the backside of Elk Island. Deeper water, lots of sand. Don't get too close into Travis here, lots of current, bad ice. But if you go on the backside here, this is actually Gimli up here. One of the hotels was there. We had really good fishing last year at Gimli. Once you get above here, you actually get some structure. I was fishing a flat close to shore. It dropped from about 6 feet into about 9 feet, just right now on a shelf, and then kind of petered out to about 15 foot. We did really well up here for about 3 weeks last year. Really easy fishing. Lots of fish, really good numbers, hardly any people up there. Just a few of us fishing, and good numbers. Some of you guys might have fished Riverton area or heard about Riverton. Okay, that area is up here. And actually you can't see it on this map, but there's 2 big sandbars. The Riverton bar comes out and almost to the middle, and the Hecla bar, this is Hecla Island, that comes out almost to the middle. Some years that can get very, very hot. Not as many big fish up here, but lots of nice 4 to 6 pounders. And when I mean lots, I mean like you can catch 50 to 100 a day sometimes. But if all you care about is catching that 10, 12 pounder, you got to stay down here. I've caught very, very few big fish here. But sometimes I really firmly believe you got to take what the lake's going to give you. I guided for 35 years up in northern Manitoba in very remote locations and had incredible fishing. I fished probably 200 days a year for lots and lots of years. But occasionally I'd get a guest that want to go, all he cared about was pike. I go, buddy, we're catching 6-ball walleyes like this, every drop. Don't care. You'd go fish for pike, for some reason you couldn't catch one to save your life, And so what I always tried to get through people is enjoy the day, and what you want to do is sometimes you got to take what the lake gives you. You gotta be adjust and be mobile enough to just have fun and do what you gotta do. But some of the areas that people are gonna start fishing more are Hecla, some up in here. And as you can see from the lake, that the part that I don't show, that gets real big, that gets 80, 90 miles wide across there. So there's always lots of current through here. This is a causeway. So the whole lake comes right through here, through Manigatogan, or through this gap here, between Hecla and Black Island. Very good fishing up in there, good structure. And one thing I noticed last year about fishing in Gimli is that the fish responded like they did in the old days, like 8, 10 years ago. No, by that I mean they hit my rattle bait right off the bat. You'd rip it, boom. So I'm guessing these fish were new fish. Last year I noticed down in here, a lot of the fish, we had so much ice, so much snow. I think once the fish got here, I mean I hate to say it, but I think they got used to lures, they got pounded too hard. And it's a lot easier to look for fresh fish. And that's not to say that the fishing was crappy or anything. It wasn't as good as I wanted to see it, but it wasn't like it used to be. You know, there were times when we first started fishing here, I used to live right on the lake right down here, and I used to fish just for something to do. I can remember when you couldn't catch a walleye. It was a perch lake. The commercial fishing guys were starving to death. They'd have 300 yards of net out, 6 feet deep, and they'd get 10 fish. You know, they set that same net now, they might have 300 or 400 pounds of fish, you know, overnight. But I used to go out, I had an old Honda trike. We'd beat that over everything, and I'd go fishing, and I was one of the smart guys, because I fished down here quite a bit, so I had the little ants and the waxies and stuff. So we'd go catch perch. And every once in a while, you'd catch a walleye. Then one day I caught 2. I couldn't believe it. 2 fish, holy smokes, we're on a roll here, boys. Then one day in March, right down in here, kind of right, actually in Chalet Beach, right where you go on, just past that, there's a little sand bay. It's got a lighthouse in it. You guys may not recognize it as a lighthouse, but it's just like a little spot. We were in there, I caught 25. I thought I died and went to heaven. But back then, it was even worse, like there was nobody on the lake. There was 6 guys. If I saw 3 people, I knew them. I could tell you by where the guy was fishing, who he was. That's honest to God. And then it got to be like 50 guys. And I probably knew most of them. Then it got to be 200. So what would happen then, I was kind of a well-known guy on the lake, so they'd all be fishing here. If I wasn't guiding, I didn't hit the lake at first light. I'd sleep in, I'd go out at 8, 9 o'clock. So I'd be driving by everybody. And the next thing you know, everybody's packing up and they're following me. Here we go. The funniest story I can tell you about that is buddies and I, we have to make our own trails. So we'd get on the lake. I would hook up a tow strap right off the bat, because I know I'm getting stuck. We'd hook it up, and I would just give her a snot until you got stuck. Don't spin the tires, don't hurt the tranny, just stop. The guy would come up behind you, hook on, plug you out, off I'd go again. So we'd want to get from here, we'd maybe want to get over here to 6, 8 miles. I might get stuck 6, 8 times. But then we'd beat down the trail. We did that one day, so my buddy and I are fishing. The guy comes up to me and he goes, "What the heck are you doing parking in the middle of the road?" I got a little excited. I said, "Buddy," I said, "do you see the road up there?" I might have said a few other words too. I said, "Do you see the road past here? I made the road." Turn your shit around and leave. But I can't believe somebody would have the gall to do that. You go, "What are you doing parking on the road?" Some of you guys that know me well, I drive a Suburban on tracks. This is my 3rd one. The 2nd one burnt down on the lake. Right over kind of in here. I had 8 guests that day. I think they were from North Dakota. And I took 4 of the guys out and a bunch of gear. I had another guy with me. He was on a sled. So we went over just past the mouth, kind of on the edge of the mouth in Crubens. I was fishing where it drops off there. Drop them off, get them set up. I turn around, I got 4 more guys I got to pick up over here, right? I get about halfway here. truck's not running too good. I go, what the heck? So I just took my foot off the gas, it kind of comes to a stop. Next thing I know, I'm opening the door and it's just flames out on either side. Uh-oh, this isn't good. Grab my flasher, out the door we go. I'm trying to get, so then there's flames coming up and I'm trying to kick snow and it snows hard as a rock, I can't do shit. So I'm kicking snow. Next thing you know, oh, more flames. I said, oh, we're screwed now. So get the camera out, I'm taking pictures of my truck on fire. I can't. I called my wife. Honey, what are you doing? She said, I just got up. Okay, here's the deal. I said, she goes, did the fish bite? And I go, no. I said, I got an issue now. I said, the truck's on fire. I said, what, is it that good? It's not, no. I said, honey, the truck's on fire. Well, did it burn up? I said, it's on fire right now. She goes, what do you mean? I said, I'm looking at the truck burn. I'll send you pictures. I said, call the insurance company. So I had to call a buddy of mine. He comes out, he uses his truck. We get out, get the 4 guys, get out, go fishing, get everybody back off the lake. Had a great day. Had a really good day the day after, because the funny thing was, I think that was on a Friday. So there wasn't many guys out. But the next day, I just got the Hulk sitting there. Like it's half burnt through the ice. I mean, it burned right to the ground. The interior, I mean, there wasn't, the steering wheel was gone, the seats, even the springs in the seats melted. You know, full tank of gas, there's $150 down the share. So we get out there, and I had to use my other truck, so I had to pound the trail out. But what was so funny, I couldn't believe it, everybody's fishing, they're using my truck for structure. It's like, look, somebody was fishing there. I mean, there's like 20 guys fishing within 50 yards of my, I'm like, what the hell? I go, but I said, what are you guys doing? They said, well, it must have been good you were fishing here before it burned. I said, no, man, I was just traveling through. I said, I don't think there's shit here. You know, so I guess people like structure too. Speaking of structure, one thing that we use on Lake Winnipeg quite a bit that's really important is, because we don't have the typical rocks and that kind of thing, but I call it topwater structure. When you've got the ice ridges going up, there's a certain amount of that hangs down below, and it'll either let oxygen in, you got to be careful around them, or but there's invertebrates and minnows, and I think the fish use them like a highway, they just cruise through there. So when you see those cracks and everything, it's almost always a good area to start fishing, and just keep hole hopping until you find fish. And once you get on a pot of fish, you can literally stop and sit there. And if I got guys fishing, I'll be out chatting with the guys, and I can tell 400 yards away there a guy caught a fish. 350, there's a guy. Well, that guy must suck. He didn't get one. This guy got one. So you can literally watch the schools of fish come through, but they will follow those the push-ups and pressure ridges. And if you can find one where like 2 or 3 come together, that's like the country store, man. That's the hot spot right there. So what I want to do is, if I want to fish, if I know there's fish over on this side, if I can find fresh cracks and everything in there, find an area that you want to fish and I narrow it down that way. And probably the most important thing to do now is social media. I mean, I've got lots of guys that never did Facebook until they figured out that there's ice fishing on Facebook. So there's a number of resources out there, or your friends are on Facebook, but you know, I see it all the time where guys are out Saturday, they come the weekend, next week, their partner's coming up, or their neighbor or somebody, boom, he's got the GPS coordinates, he's right there. So it really gives you an edge. You've got a good area, you know where there was fish at least a few days ago. So there may not be shit there now, but you got a high confidence spot to go to. Otherwise, you get out in the lake, you come off Chalet Beach, you get out there around, you look around, you go, oh my God, there's nothing here. So where does the guy go? So some of the ice ridges are areas to look for, but the social media thing, I mean, everybody's got different areas that they can ship you to. And basically, if you want to start, find some people and start in that area. Or for guys that are on your own, I mean, don't get 20 feet from the guy, it's a big lake. But in those areas, just start there and work it from there if you don't have a clue. The other thing the guys do is talk to everybody in the motel at night. I mean, all all you people are real friendly, so they're sharing, hey, I'm going home, yeah, you know what, we caught him right here, he got whips out his GPS. Right there, you know, that's the best fish port you're gonna look at. He's giving me the spot, so those are just some ways that you can find areas to fish and go from there. See what my next one is. I think we're getting about done with the prepared program. Questions from anybody?
What's the best time of day?
What's the best time of day?
Really good point. The absolute positively you do not want to miss time of day is early morning. Do not stay up too late drinking. If you gotta quit early in the afternoon, do that. But the best bite is always first light till 8, 9, 10 o'clock. Typically, if you're gonna catch 25 fish a day, which is a good day but not out of line for people, you're gonna catch about 12 of those fish from first light till 9, 10 o'clock. You're gonna catch 4 or 5 more, drill a bunch of holes, get tuckered out, moving around all over till 3 or 4, and then you're gonna catch another 6, 8 towards evening. But there is no night bite on Lake Winnipeg. Same with Lake of the Woods too. I know down here you get, everybody, you know, some of the lakes, that's the only time you can catch a fish. Otherwise you get run over by ski-doos and or sea-doos and all that other crap. That's why God made musky rods. But, so there really is no night bite on the lakes up there. Yes?
So is there have you noticed that there's a certain time when the rattlebaits kind of take off? Are spoons better early, rattlebaits better later?
Typically, yeah. Typically what I'll do, I used to have a theory where the fish moved. I'd try to start out fairly shallow, maybe 8 feet from the top. And then, and I knew the fish were up in these areas. I would use spoons, buckshots, any of the different types, spoons or jigged wraps early, because I figured the fish were close by. The rattle baits, I would use typically as a day wore on, I would move out to deeper water, and I assumed that the fish were moving that way too. I'm starting to rethink that a little bit. I'm thinking what happens is different pods of fish. If you can picture a huge expanse of lake, there's fish with literally millions of fish in it. You've got fish here, and 40 yards away there's another group of 50 fish, and there's fish over there. And so what I'm thinking now is that instead of those fish moving, I'm thinking they just feed at different times. The shallower ones feed earlier, and as it gets later in the day, I'm able to trigger some of those bigger fish that are maybe more solitary or in deeper water. So I used to always think, oh, I can follow the fish and follow the school. You can sometimes do that. But I'm thinking when I make those 400 or 500 yard moves out to the deeper water, I think that's separate fish now. I could be wrong, it's all conjecture, but sounds good. Yes, sir.
We do 30-inch fish swim with 23-inch fish on Lake Winnipeg.
Yep. Old guy thing, don't leave fish to find fish. Unless you're catching, one thing I'll tell you, like if you're getting 16, 18-inch fish, you know, I might stay there for a while to get my body count up, to, you know, let get some jiggle on the rod for the boys, but an hour of that, I'm gone. But if you're getting 23, 24, the next one could be 30, 32. You know, if you're into mature fish, you get anything over 5, 6 pounds, if you're getting a few of those, you're in the right area. They're the same area where those great big 30-inch fish are.
What's the limit now up there?
We have 2 different limits. It's another good question. We have a conservation limit, which is 4 fish total. Of those 4 fish, 1 can be over 22 inches in total length. We also have a 6 fish limit, and only 1 can be over 22 inch. Yes, sir.
In the morning, are you closer to the shore?
Typically, yes.
As well?
Yeah. Typically, I'll do that. The caveat to that is unless in the evening or late afternoon I found a bunch of fish that turned on, again, I'm not going to leave fish to find fish, so I'm going to go back and hit that spot up. But typical, the standard thing is I'll fish a little shallower earlier. I'm sorry? Okay. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Say, with the extreme cold that you have up in Lake Winnipeg, can you comment a little bit on line, and what lines you have that work better, you know, maybe with the ice build up, and then at the same time, how light the line can you go and still have a heavy enough line for the big fish that's gonna come along? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, good point. If you're fishing inside, it's not such a big deal. I tend to fish outside much, so I'm hooked either way. You're always, you know, I'm up like this, getting the line off. I don't like to go over or under 8-pound test, even on like a fluorocarbon leader. I'm worried about abrasion on the ice. And when I'm fishing for a 35-inch fish, or I want 18, 20 pounds. That's my goal. So I don't care about if I'm going to miss a 2-pound fish. But I think you should have at least 8-pound. You know, and then it's important too to check your drags on your reels and ice and make sure the line is right. The devil is in the details to get those big fish, guys. Well, you know, if everybody went up here and fished for 3 days, 90% of you would hook one or get one to bite, but only half are going to get one to come up. You know, and it's all the little detail things, the using the swivel on the bottom so that that bait hangs right. How you tie your spoon, is it hanging funny like this? A real important key that gets guys all the time is our salted minnows. You go up, you're coming up at 11 o'clock at night, and you're just happy to find some, you buy them. Always open them up and look at them. So if they got brown backs, they're not the best. You want the nice blue shiner ones. One of the things that I always do is I buy them by the case and I check every one, but I take them out of that, I put them in a coffee can and I add extra salt to them and refreeze them. A little tip, if you got any scent or anything you like to use on them, scent them. I keep separate containers because some of the scents will work good, not all the time, but that's a nice tip. You send them up and then it permeates that. You want lots of salt on them. They really like the salt. Yeah.
I believe the Manitoba catch and release record was 39 inches out of the Red River in March or April.
It was 38 inches, yeah.
38 inches. How big do you suppose the biggest walleye is in Lake Winnipeg?
I know that, I know lots of commercial fishermen. The biggest one that I've ever heard that I know, I trust the guy that weighed it, was over 25 pounds. And 20-pound fish are like, it's funny, but for a commercial fisherman, a 20-pound walleye is worth squat. Because that's a jumbo, he gets paid less per pound, and then he's got a quota, so then it takes up more of his quota for less money, so he doesn't like those. He wants mediums, which are like 18 to 23. You know, and then I know down here you guys are really conservation conscious, so like you want to eat like a 16 or 18-inch walleye, and oh my God, if you kill a 20-inch fish, you know, if your partner does that, you're never speaking to him again, and you know. You don't have to worry about that up there. That's just a medium. That's 1 in 9 million pounds. So if you want to take 20-inch fish, go for it. Have fun. You know, I'm not big on the skin mounts anymore with the graphite replicas. They look so realistic, and they actually last a lot longer. My old skin mounts are going to heck now. You know, they crack and go bad. But if you really got your heart set and taking a skin mount home, that's legal to do so. Yeah.
One more question about, just for a minute, can you talk about, all you talked about Lake Winnipeg, can you talk just for a minute about your history? You know, we talked about it before.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear just a little bit about where you came from.
Okay, actually, that's kind of an interesting point. I was born and raised in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Went to school at the University of Minnesota in the pre-med program. That wasn't for me. But I wanted to make a living fishing, okay, and that would have been mid-70s, like a lot of you guys here. It was mid-70s for me. I knew Gary Roach, I knew a few of the guys. I started working at a tackle shop just to kind of get your foot in the door, you know. Got a guiding job up north. I started guiding, when I say up north, I mean way north, like up by the Northwest Territories, northern Manitoba. But that was like a 3-month gig. That was June, July, August. I would come back down, spent the whole winter going to sports shows, traveling all over the Midwest, East Coast. I've been everywhere, sitting in a booth, talking about fishing. So that's kind of how I got into it. And then, like I mentioned, I knew Gary Roach back then. And still know him. But, you know, I was talking about, you know, how does a guy make a living? I said, you must be, you know, he was like an idol. I thought, you must be rich, man. He goes, no, barely making a living. I thought, well, look at the tournaments and this and that. Back then, and I don't know how it is now, but, you know, I know Randash and a few of those guys, but the tournament thing, those guys, even now I believe, you can, if you make your expenses, you're doing really good. Their money comes from endorsements and they're, you know, selling Lund boats or Mercury outboards or sitting in some booth at a sports show for all winter. And then they're still starving to death. So what I decided to do is go into the guide side. I had steady income all the time. Then in fall time, I used to duck and goose on locks. After the fishing was done, you know, like a lot of you guys here in Manitoba, up by Boise Bay and all that, we duck and goose shoot. Next thing you know, guys will say, hey, you wanna, yeah, I'll take you out. Next thing you know, I'm a duck and goose guy. Then deer hunting. We used to shoot some real big deer, 160, 170, 180, that kind of stuff. Guys will go, well, can you take us out? Yeah, I can do that. And this is back, I mean, it was all wide open, and now you can't do that. Everybody's got quotas and licenses and territories and all this stuff, but back then you could just get a license of, you know, 25 bucks, boom, off I go. So that's kind of some of my background, but so I'm one of the few guys probably that I know that's my age that's stuck with that for so long. Now the last 4 or 5 years, actually 10 years ago probably, my wife and I had a fishing lodge up on God's Lake. Really, really good fishing, very remote flying place, had our own airstrip, everything like that. Well, the last recession you guys had down here wasn't too good for you. It really sucked to be me. So, didn't come out too good on that deal. So, finally got out of that. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm a site supervisor for a commercial construction company. I run big projects, $10, $15 million projects. And I got on the weekend, and I'm lucky enough where if I want to take a Friday off or a Thursday off or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I can just go ahead. Actually, my boss is some of the Walleye Club guys know him really well, but he's a big fisherman. I think that's how I got the job interviewed. I'm sure that's the only reason he hired me is to get a few spots on me. Actually, he's a very good guy. And one thing I'd like to mention about the club too is I'm guessing most of you guys are members or not. How many non-members? Just curious. Okay. The Fargo Moorhead Walleye Club is probably the best angling club in the country, probably the world. I believe these guys are the only fishing club in the Freshwater Hall of Fame. Am I right? There's 2. But these guys do a tremendous job. And if you want more information, or if you're thinking about going up for the first time and you're still not quite sure, and I scared the shit out of you, these guys have an outing that goes up in March. It's kind of a loose kind of a thing. You're not like stuck where you have to fish in this hole right here or do this or come in at this time. But they put together an outing that is just superb along with the Walleye Anglers of Manitoba, WAM. And that's where a lot of the people got to start fishing up there. These guys do a seminar that they've got online now. I recommend my guests look at it. It's very, very complete, and it's a little different perspective. You're getting my perspective as a guy who lives up there all the time. These guys, their perspective is just like you. What do I need to do to get up there and fish? But as far as the angling club goes, very classy people. You couldn't go wrong by joining this. You're going to get your money's worth out of it. And like I said, if you're a little hesitant about coming up, they go up in mid-March. Please join the club, go up with them. They have a great time. You have a couple of banquets up there. Win some prizes, catch some fish. If you're not a real experienced angler, you know, maybe for you and like your buddy Calvin there, you know, people are going to help them out. If you don't have the right thing, or you don't, for some of the, you know, if you got to wear a hockey helmet all the time, just saying. But the guys are up there, and there's always people that can help you out and get you steered in the right direction. I've got a Facebook page called Lake Winnipeg Ice Fishing on Facebook. If you want to ask me a question, I'll answer it for you. Okay? I do guide, but you know, the honest answer is I got more business than I need. So I got no skin off my butt. I wish it was, because it's big enough. You know, to help you out. You want to know what lure is hot? Hey Lee, how's the access over here? I'll tell you. I should mention there's only really 3 guys on the lake. Myself, Donovan Perez, he's Blackwater Cats, if you're looking for a guide. Nice young guy. And then Jason Hamilton, he's Jason Hamilton Outdoors. He's actually got a doctorate in, what the hell is it? Marine mammals or something. He used to go up in the Arctic and shoot walruses with dart guns. Pretty cool job. But that gig died off, so. But he's actually very knowledgeable, good guy. So if you're looking for, if you really need a guy, talk to one of those guys. Okay, any more questions? Yes, sir.
So if you're, and I've done this before up there, on the east and west side,
Yeah.
and on fish, right, pounding them,
Yep.
and then all of a sudden it slowly tapers off, right? So if you're gonna get up and chase those fish,
Which way do you go?
Which way, right?
Yeah, that's always a big question. Typically, you know, if you remember my lake map, it depends on what side you're on. If you're on the west side of the river, you want to go, typically they go northeast towards the mouth, but not always. The short answer is you just gotta, yeah, well, you never, well, hey, I'm trying to be like a politician here. But on the east side, typically they go northwest towards the mouth, because you've got that back eddy current coming this
Big
way.
eddy, right?
Yeah, so it's a big eddy. So that's the short answer.
So go against
One
the-
thing you can tell, like if you're fishing with 6-8 guys and everybody's kind of spread out, like in a room this size, and you're shooting the shit and you were wishing you could have a beer because you can't drink in Manitoba on the ice. But you're catching fish and you notice that this guy's getting a few fish here, but that guy's just smacking them back there. This guy over here, he ain't catching shit. So where do you want to move to? You want to go that way. Right? Do it all the time. It's called it's like back ending the guy. Kind of a double meaning there. Yeah. But that way you can tell where the fish are coming through, right? He's getting first crack at the fish. So then if he stops catching them, which way do you want to go then? You want to go this way, right? So all those little keys, if you pay attention, like when they stop biting, it's like, oh, where the hell did they go? The keys are there, you just got to pay attention. And take a minute, when I know everybody's concentrating and fishing, take a minute to kick back and just watch. Like I do that all the time with guys. I'll be sitting out there and all of a sudden, oh, there's a guy got a fish, this guy's got one, what's going on? These guys are whooping way over there. All those clues will help tell you where the fish are and pinpoint action for you.
You're saying bring a good pair of binoculars.
Pair of binoculars, yeah, a lot of guys do that. But most of the guys nowadays are all, it looks like a sea of red out there, man. They're all in their little tents. But yeah, the binoculars helps. Then you'll be like the summertime, you got the rod down and no, nothing going on here. Keep her going, boys, keep her going. Anybody else got a question? Sir?
How's the summertime fishing?
You know, everybody wants to know that, and what typically happens, there are fish that stay in the south end. Most of the fish, after spawning, after about the middle of June, they migrate further north. And it's really a hard lake to fish. You need like a tie or something. It gets really, really windy, and it's very shallow. It's not a good experience.
How far north then do you recommend?
Well, you'd have to go up to Grand Rapids. If you go up to so 3-4 hours north of Winnipeg. Wait, Grand Rapids more than, it was about 6. But around Long Point there, where the Saskatchewan River comes in, get really good fishing up there, but not so many big fish. But they just fish the river; they don't fish the lake. It's just we don't, we don't have 20-foot boats, 25-foot boats up there, and it's just very, very hard to do. So not many guys do it. Any more? Yes, in the back.
If a guy wanted to bring his permanent fish house up there as a base camp, like on Chalet Beach, do they allow that, or do they let you?
Yeah, if you get it on the ice, you're okay. They might kick you off. Like we have very few guys that do that. The big thing is about human waste. They get excited about that. So, like if you got a holding tank, it's not a big deal. And there's more and more guys doing that. Not actually fishing out of them so much, but just using it for a place to camp and cook and save the motel bill.
Is it safe? Like I've stayed at Selkirk before. It's kind of.
Yeah, a little sketchy. Yeah, I mentioned that.
So is it safe on the ice there?
It's safe. Yeah, I haven't had a problem on the ice, and you're going to be there. So, I mean, as you know, when dark comes, there ain't nobody out there. I mean, you don't see a snowmobile, you don't see squat out on an evening. Yes, sir.
How'd the ice freeze this year? Is it smooth or is it jagged?
It's not too bad, it's jagged. The east side is pretty smooth, some cracks forming now. Chalet Beach is pretty crappy, but only for a couple hundred yards. So everybody looks at it and goes, oh, it's gonna be shit. But it snows a little bit and it fills in. I drive over it a few times, it breaks it off, you're good. Warner Road over on the left side, that is smooth as glass, give her shit. But there's some cracks opening up. Guys were driving the other day, they're driving on the Red River. That's another point I should mention too. If you get weathered out in the lake, you can always fish the Red River. And you got a good, I mean, I'd rather fish the lake, but if it beats sitting there at shore or playing cards or something, go fish the Red. You've always got an option. Yep.
Wait, how much difference does nicer weather be in March? I've been up there about 5 Marches now, and 3 Marches that had 70 degree, 40 degree, had some current going in. I mean, we're talking about all the fish in the lake are on the south part of the lake, right?
Yeah, well, they aren't all there, but there's a shitload of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. You know, I find mentally it's a lot easier. I mean, if you're not all bundled up and you don't have frostbite going on, and all your stuff works, and it's easier to move and zip around, it makes a lot of difference. But once you get some water flowing down the holes or some of the creeks starting to flow a little bit, it oxygenates the water and it makes a huge difference. It like multiplies it by 10. The guys that were up last year, the March fishing was more like February. It didn't get good till April after the season closed. You know, in Manitoba, some of our Aboriginal people, they're allowed to fish, they don't have season. So, I mean, I would go out there in mid-April, I wanted to see what the heck they're doing, and they're just ripping the lips off them. It was just like our March fishing. But that was mid-April, you know, I'm driving my truck out in the middle of the lake. Anybody else?
Just
Yep.
one more. Water levels I know make a big difference for like Balsam Harbor and also like Winnipeg Beach.
Yeah?
How's the water level right now for 14 going into the winter and 15 going into the Winnipeg River was high as heck all winter.
You know, it's actually not bad. It dropped a lot in the fall. The Winnipeg River dropped about 4 feet, I think, towards late fall. So we're actually pretty good. Like I live on the water too, and in front of my, it's about normal, I think. It's not real low, not real high. Should be okay. Anybody else? You tired of me yet? Yes, sir.
I've heard most people say that the best month to fish is March, and we typically go January trip and a March trip. And I think we found we kind of keep a lot of the fish we've caught, and we've done actually better in January for big fish. As far as
I support that 110%. If big fish is your thing, if that's what you're concerned about, you want to come in January, try to pick a good weekend. February is really good, up until about that first week in March. After that, we still catch some big fish. You'll see them on Facebook or in the forums and stuff. But keep in mind, there's 10 times the fishing pressure as there is in February. If you go up in January, I mean, you're going to see, you have days you don't see anybody out there, right? Not a soul. So the big fish, you know, big fish per man-hour fish is much higher in January, February. The caveat to that is you freeze your ass off and you break stuff. So, you know, some of that stuff, it just sucks the fun right out of it. Yeah, burn trucks, you can burn up sleds, stuff don't start. Yeah, no, it's brutal. It's just, until you've been up there and done that, it's hard to describe how brutal that is.
You don't have 4 feet of ice though.
No, you only got about 3, 2.5. Yeah, so it's a little easier to pop holes.
How is the bite right now?
It's really good. I'll be out tomorrow afternoon. That's where the guys will go, hey, we're going to have a beer after? No, man, I'm leaving. I'll sleep in till about 8 o'clock. I'll get home at 1 o'clock, sleep in till 8. I'll be on the lake by 10. But yeah, it's been really good. Over on the west side, east side was good at first ice. Now it's kind of slacked off. This weekend will tell. There'll be a lot of guys out this weekend. There'll be more guys driving, so you'll get a really good picture. But, you know, just something that's very easy now, and I didn't hit on it too much, but in that deep snow and all that cold, you need a sled, you need a quad, you need something on tracks to get around. Right now, until we get lots of snow, you can drive your pickup truck. You can drive your wife's minivan on the lake. You know, so that if people are looking for something to do, maybe between Christmas and New Year's, something like that, you got the kids or you got something, you know, got a couple days off, you don't need, you know, $80,000 worth of equipment to go fish on the lake. Just watch the snow level. Yes, sir.
You had mentioned that Shelley Beach area, you fished just north of Shelley Beach there.
Yeah?
And last year, whatever, you did pretty good. You were saying that the majority of the bigger fish come down lower to the south. What's that area like for big fish up there north of Gimli?
No, you know, the big fish have to be there, they gotta come through. I'll be real honest with you, people don't fish there enough. There's very few guys, I mean, it's like virtually untapped. There's actually some big reefs out there, Nasa Reef, if you get a good map or check if you got the Navionics map, you go, man, there's a big reef out there. I'll bet there's 100 guys out there. No, ain't nobody. You know, I fished it a few times, caught some fish, but that's what I was saying, is I think that's where the future lies. Guys like you that want to explore a little bit, you've been up there 8-10 times, yeah, I've caught a shitload of 5-pounders, who cares? Let's go try something new. And I think that'll be like the next wave of the fishing on the lake.
Do you think there's big fish out there, or up there?
Oh yeah, I've caught some, I just don't catch as many. But it might be that I catch so many fish, like I've had, you know, probably my best day ever, I caught 200 fish out of there. It was like this, in 4 feet of water all day. All day. Didn't stop, didn't move.
What's that river like just north of the casino to get up?
Just for driving on?
Yeah.
You know, for sleds, it's normally pretty good early. March can get a little sketchy. You just ask them at the casino, they'll tell you. Okay, but if you go up in January, February, you can leave right from the casino and zip right out there. Just don't stop in the res. That's not good. Yes, sir.
I haven't seen a good paper map of the lake yet.
Yeah, there is a good paper map, and it's, I forget the name of the company, but it's Manitoba. There's a company that sells maps. It's a government thing up there. And they've got a big one of the whole map, and it does have, it's just like your Navionics. It looks the same. That's what Navionics used, was that the information off that paper. So it's going to be off because of the lake level was quite a bit lower when they made that, but your variance will still be there. Any more? Thank you very much. I hope you learned at least one good thing.
All right, before we let Lee go, Lee, get over here.
Okay.
Don't sit down yet. We have a hat for you, FM Walleye hat.
Perfect.
For coming to speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And something else that you guys probably don't know is Lee worked today in Winnipeg. He worked at his regular job.
Yeah.
And you left at what, noon?
I pulled the pin at noon, yeah. Came in my work clothes, and I just had my wife packed me a little bag, so I got here about 5 o'clock, right in the washroom, changed clothes, and here we are.
And he come and talked to us, and now he's gonna drive back home again so he can fish tomorrow. So to me, that's amazing. So, thank you, Lee.
Thank you. And that actually speaks to these guys. And I mean, I've got so many people that are dear friends. I've got a couple in the audience that you know I've known for. There's one guy here. I'll bet I've known him for 30 years. You know, and I fish with him quite a bit. So there he sits over there. John. So I mean, I've got hundreds of friends and people that I've guided over the years, and they're all good friends of mine now. You know, a lot of them I don't fish with anymore. They call me up, I'm coming up, I just go hang out with them. I mean, they know everything I know by now. So, I mean, it's, but the people in North Dakota and the people in Fargo, and especially in the club, everybody I've ever met, classy people, all of them. No, I don't think I've never met an asshole from North Dakota. I'm sure you got one, I just haven't ran it.
You know I'm from Minnesota, don't you?
I know a couple from Minnesota, and lots from Wisconsin. Thank you very much.
And Lee is one of us too, because he is one of those guys, like he said, if you go on his Facebook page, Lake Winnipeg Ice Fishing, he will be as open as I have ever seen any fisherman. He will tell you anything you want to know, which is amazing. And that's what we try and do as a club, and we appreciate that openness. So thank you very much.